Welcome to Your Health Reset, where we address the real root causes behind health issues today to get you rapid results on your health journey so you can be who you came here to be, mind, body, and spirit. I'm your host, Sinclair Kennally, survivor of complex chronic illness, expert on resolving root causes, and co-founder of Detox Rejuvenation and Meditation RX. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Root Causes Rapid Results. I'm your host, Sinclair Kennally, and I'm joined with my wonderful friend and colleague, Laura Frontiero, nurse practitioner and mitochondrial expert. Laura is the founder of BioRadiant Health. She's the creator of Restore Your Mitochondrial Matrix, and she has served thousands of patients in the clinic and virtual setting as a nurse practitioner over the last 22 years. Laura's journey, I think, really reflects what a lot of us have done, like starting in allopathic medicine and then actually very familiar with the limitations there and seeking answers elsewhere. So, Laura, I'd actually love to start there. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me here, Sinclair. I love it. We get to collaborate a lot together. It's always so great to talk to your audience. So thank you. All right. So yes, you mentioned that I started in allopathic traditional medicine. 20 years I spent there as a nurse practitioner. And here's the crux of it. It's really ironic. I worked in preventive medicine. And, the whole point of preventive medicine is to prevent disease. But what I realized is all I was doing was looking for early disease. It wasn't really prevention. It was early detection. That's how I would rephrase what I was doing. So we were doing cancer screenings and different, laboratory and diagnostic screenings. But we were looking for early disease. We weren't spending time really teaching people how to prevent what we were looking for in the first place. And I think I had this huge aha moment, 20 years in, like, oh, that's about the time I learned about functional medicine and went down that big, wormhole of, oh, there's a lot missing here in the traditional world. All we do is tell people to eat less, exercise more. And we don't even give them really great advice. We tell them to eat a whole bunch of grains. We tell them to use artificial sweeteners instead of sugar for their blood sugar. We tell them to wear wearable devices to measure their 10,000 steps. And, we're giving them EMF exposure, radiation exposure with all that. Like, what are we doing? We're getting it wrong. So that's when I realized I needed to do something else with the rest of my career. And that was, let's focus on getting it right.
I love that. I think it's so important for us to recognize where we've previously been limited in terms of our tools and toolkits and be willing to start fresh. So I think it's super courageous. And I think it's actually really encouraging for people to hear that because we get told and we get gaslit basically, right? By allopathic medicine. You're fine. And what they really mean is you're not sick enough to fall into a disease label just yet.
Oh yeah. And funny, if I didn't spend those 20 years doing what I was doing, what I'm doing right now wouldn't be as meaningful to me. I wouldn't be as good at it. I wouldn't be as impactful. So I'm actually grateful for that 20 years because it made the now that I'm doing right now in this moment so much bigger, so much better, so much more meaningful. And I'm so much more passionate about it than I would have been if I hadn't spent 20 years screwing it up. There's a positive way to look at every experience in your life. That's my interpretation of it anyway.
So one of the things I really want to make sure we have time for today is unpacking some of the root causes of mitochondrial dysfunction, since you're the mitochondria lady. But first, we got to remember that we have two audiences here with us today. We've got our gluten-free yogis who still feel like crap. They're the ones who know more than their practitioners. Hi, guys. We love you. I totally feel you. That's the label they came up with for themselves, by the way.
I love it. It's the best. Every time
is, right?
That, I'm like, gosh, I know people like that. That's amazing.
Yeah. High achievers. You've read every article. You've tried every food plan. You've done all the cleanses. You've tried all the things, and you still know that something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
So they're here for the deep work. And then we also have our wonderful newbies who are just taking back control over their health.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know what? I'm not going to wait for that label, or I have a label, but I'm not going to accept it. Right? So let's start with unpacking what mitochondria actually are and how they function. What do they do for the body? And then we'll talk about all those root causes.
Absolutely. And yes, and I like to make this super simple. I know you probably have practitioners watching too. So you've got all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've actually turned out to be known as the energy lady. The way that we heal the body is to make sure that we're supporting energy production at the mitochondrial cellular level. And I know you do that in all of your programs as well. That is what you support in everything that you do. And it's so critical. So I thank you for bringing me here to unpack this and talk about it today. when I was in biology class in high school, if you would have told me then that I would be this mitochondria energy expert, I would have totally laughed at you because I was having a lot of fun in biology class, dissecting stuff and using Bunsen burners. And then we had to learn the Krebs cycle one week. And this is where we learned about mitochondria and this circle and all these cofactors of nutrients and this whole process of the electron transport chain and energy production. And it was just mind-blowing and boring. And it was really not as fun as dissecting. So I think that speaking to it in those terms is really boring for your audience too. So that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this really fun and easy. And we're going to talk in analogies. So first, let's talk about mitochondria's job. They actually have several functions, but the most widely researched and understood until about 10 years ago was their main purpose of making most of your body's energy. In fact, 90%. And so I like to talk about energy in terms of two types. And this is a Laura-ism. This is not something I learned in high school biology or anywhere in my career. But I like to think of energy as physical energy and invisible energy. Physical energy is the kind of energy you feel when you wake up in the morning and you're looking at the day ahead of you and you have the energy to face or not. Or maybe it's that energy you feel or not around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon after lunch where you either have a slump or you're still going. Or maybe it's that energy that you feel or not at the end of the day when it's now time to prepare dinner. Maybe you're home from work. Maybe you have family that you're spending time with, and either you have enough energy to spend with them or not, or to do your hobbies or whatever else is coming up in your life. That's physical energy. It's energy you feel. It's the energy that you use to exercise. It's the energy you use to get through your day. Then there's this whole concept of invisible energy that you don't feel. And that's the energy that's required for every cellular function in your body. So whether it's taking a breath, whether it's your heart beating, whether it's your food digesting, whether it's your, gut microbiome assimilating vitamins and making hormones and neurotransmitters, or whether blood pumping through your vessels, that all requires energy too. And it's invisible. You don't know it's happening. But here's the interesting thing, Sinclair. Whether it's physical and you notice it, or whether it's invisible and you don't, it all requires the same amount or the same type, I should say, of ATP energy that's made by your mitochondria. Those are the little organisms that live in your cells and they make the energy for you. So think of energy like currency, like we have dollars that we spend here in the United States to buy things. So think of ATP as your body's currency of energy. So when I'm wiggling my finger, that takes a certain amount of ATP. Let's say it takes 5 units of ATP. But if I were to get up and walk across the room and walk out the door over here, that would take a lot more ATP energy. Let's say it takes 20 units. And there is an amount of units that it takes to do this. And somebody somewhere has a graph that explains this, but I don't know it. But there is a unit of energy for everything. It takes a certain amount of energy for me to speak to you. It takes a certain amount of energy for me to take a breath, for my brain to send a signal, to my body to do X, Y, and Z. Every pathway in the body is using energy. And you need to constantly make it. You need to replenish that bank account that you're spending because you're using it every day of your life. And the minute you stop making it is the minute that life literally ceases to exist. And so you can think of every chronic disease process, every single problem at the very base, at the very foundation, requires mitochondria functioning. It requires mitochondria to work. So that gives you kind of an idea of, what ATP is, what energy is, and why we need it. And I'll just pause there and ask if you have any questions or anything, because the next thing I want to talk about is living conditions, location, and function of your mitochondria. But let's pause there and see if you have anything to add to that.
I think it is so important to really unpack what mitochondria do for us and why they're so essential, because it's not actually our body making the energy. Like nutrients are transported to the cells. And then, there are certain conditions about whether or not the cells are actually able to receive them. But once those nutrients get into the cells, the mitochondria have to be the ones to convert. So we need them to be functioning well. And there's so many good reasons why they might not be today. I just think back through my own journey of I would have killed for energy. I literally would have done anything except for take responsibility for my own health. That sounds hard. No, I know that's not true for the audience here because you've already crossed that threshold. But it was hard for me for the first several years. But I was most aware of the anxiety and the depression, lack of energy, even more so than I was about the physical symptoms, of my illnesses. It really does start there. Like in every protocol we have, in every course, all of it, we always start with mitochondrial energy because you have to have that on board in order to do the deep healing.
It is. And I like to think about it as I'm being a ninja. No matter what I'm doing with my clients, I'm always sneaking in mitochondria energy support because they need it to feel better. They need to have some wins. They need to feel good. They need the energy to actually heal. And I know you do the same thing. You're a total ninja about it. Like, you're going to take this and it's going to help you feel better. And what you're really doing is you're supporting that very basic function. It's required.
Yeah, it's so important. So when we get on with a new client or something, they're always like, okay, here's my energy. Here's how I poop. So let's talk about what you see as the root causes or do you want to unpack a little bit more about mitochondrial function and different conditions before we go to root causes of dysfunction?
I think a really quick discussion about 3 different things that are important with mitochondria is going to help us unpack what screws them up, what hurts them. We've established that mitochondria make energy. They actually have a lot more functions in your body, which we could talk about if we have time. But their living conditions are important. Their location in your body is important. And the function of each set of mitochondria lives in different parts of your body. So I like to explain this in terms of kind of analogy of houseplants. So you've got houseplants that like to live in certain conditions in your home, in certain rooms in your home. They do need important things. They need clean water, they need sunlight, and they need nutrition. And your mitochondria are no different. They need all 3 of those things. That's really critical for your mitochondria to work. And given the right conditions, your mitochondria will thrive and grow, and they'll even reproduce. We call it mitochondria biogenesis. And so will a houseplant. So I like to think of it like that because that's something we all have and we know about. Now, if you think about where mitochondria, like to live, the location, they like to live either in a moist bathroom or in a bright kitchen or a dark bedroom or outside on the patio. They have places they like to live. Mitochondria are the same. They like to live in specific locations, like in your liver or in your kidney or in your heart or in your brain. And they are suited for that organ, just like the plant that lives in the moist bathroom might not do well on the bright patio or in the dark bedroom. Your mitochondria are the same. So for example, your liver mitochondria actually support detox pathways. They're suited for that. And so this is really important to think about, that mitochondria are not mitochondria. They actually have certain functions. And, similarly, I would say to houseplants create life-giving oxygen. They help remove toxins from the air. They have a function. They're not just a pretty thing on a shelf, right? And your mitochondria have certain functions as well. They're not just this kind of brainless organism that is inside of cells. They actually have this intelligence to them, and they communicate with every other cell in your body. They communicate with your immune system. They communicate with your nervous system. They communicate with your gut. And so they do have this incredible intelligence. And so I just like to talk about it like that. I haven't figured out a way yet to link houseplants and exercise and mitochondria yet. Mitochondria also like exercise, but I haven't figured that one out. We'll get there. But that's just kind of important to think about. Like there's an intelligence to your mitochondria. So now, if you want to talk about the root causes of mitochondria dysfunction, let's jump into that, because that's one of my favorite topics. I know it's one of yours as well. You have control, or we can help you with almost every single root cause of mitochondrial dysfunction, except for 2. So the first one is aging. Every year you are a year older, no matter what. You cannot stop the clock from spinning. And age is one of those kind of risks or root causes of mitochondria decline. Our mitochondria populations do decline with age. Now, we can do things to help boost them up and promote them and have more mitochondria than maybe somebody else your same age who's not doing healthy activities to boost mitochondria. We can't control that. And the other thing we cannot control is the genetics we are born with. However, I have a caveat. You can influence gene expression. Genes are like a light switch where they can be turned on or off depending on your lifestyle and your behaviors. So yes, you're born with a certain set of genetic predispositions, but you do have some control over whether or not those genes get flipped on and cause a chronic condition or a chronic problem. Then we get into all the things we do have control over, or things that at least practitioners can help you with. Let's talk about those things. First thing is one of our favorite topics, Sinclair, is infections. Infections cause mitochondrial decline. So what I'm referring to here is viral infections like Epstein-Barr, hepatitis, herpes, or bacterial infections commonly in the gut, colonized in your gut or colonized in your urinary tract, or fungal infections like Candida, for example, or parasite infections, for example, that can live anywhere in your body, not just in your gut, but they can move around and live in your organs as well. And then mold or mycotoxin infections. So those are all things that you do have some element of control over clearing them out when you're working with somebody who can help support you with that. Something else you have a lot of control over is EMFs and radiation and your exposure to these things. And I know that's one of your favorite topics to teach on. A lot of the things that I know about radiation and EMFs, I learned from you. You are one of my mentors and you're incredible at what you teach. And I thank you for this because I can remember when we first met, I was like, EMFs, are they really that big of a deal? You're like, yes, Laura.
We have a great masterclass about it here in the summit. So you guys can go nerd out if you're interested.
Oh, you should. Are you teaching it?
Please. I'm doing an EMF masterclass, a mold masterclass, industrial toxins, all that stuff.
So good. You guys have to learn from Sinclair. She's the best. She and Michael actually came to my house and brought their meters and they tested, radiation or EMFs and dirty electricity and all these things at my house. And it was really incredible. So I do credit you for my knowledge around this. Now, some other things that create problems for your mitochondria, the toxins that we're exposed to in our body products and our cleaning products and how we cook our food and the cookware we use and how we store our food, the toxins that are coming in from our water, from the air we breathe, from the food we eat. So pesticides, herbicides, these are all things we have control over. And then there's the whole topic of nutrition, where we're sourcing our food and what type of food we're eating. Is it organic or is it not? Is your meat, grass-fed and wild caught and hormone-free? Are you sourcing the best quality food or are you just eating whatever is cheapest at the store? Or are you eating, processed food? Or I even like to say convenience food because I find a lot of my audience says, I don't eat processed food because they automatically think of McDonald's, right? People who follow me don't eat McDonald's. But they eat a lot of convenience foods that you and I would both classify as processed, even though it's not coming from a drive-through, right? So anything that comes in a box or something that has a shelf life, a can or a box or anything that, doesn't spoil is pretty much some sort of processing. And then we have the category of, rancid oils that cause mitochondria decline. And then other things, other buckets of toxins like toxic stress or chronic stress hurts our mitochondria. Our mitochondria are very sensitive to that. If I go back to the houseplant, I like to use this analogy. Did you know somebody did a study on houseplants where if you talk negative to them, it stunts their growth and they won't grow? Mitochondria are the same. If you're in a stressful environment day in and day out and you're, upset at your spouse or significant other, or you're upset at your coworkers or your boss, or you're upset at the traffic, or you're upset or you're in toxic relationships, or whatever it is that's stressing you out, this is also preventing your mitochondria from functioning. It's killing them, and it's preventing them from reproducing. Okay, so other buckets. Sinclair, what else do we have? Heavy metals? There's more. Sleep deprivation. Got any others?
I'm just thinking about the cell danger response where I'd love to unpack that stress piece a little bit more. What happens to the mitochondria when we actually put them under stress or put ourselves under stress?
Yeah. So cell danger response is actually a whole function of mitochondria that was only discovered about 10 years ago. And it's a very fascinating thing. So we all know that our mitochondria are responsible for making reactive oxygen species, this oxidative stress that occurs in the body. And that's an initial reaction to an acute stressor, not a chronic stressor. So an acute stressor could be an infection. It can be emotional stress coming in. It can be toxins coming in, anything that's acutely coming in. Your body can create a reaction. And I'll use the example of viruses because this is something that's very real to us over the last few years with COVID. And so you always hear about people saying, I'm so exhausted after I had COVID. I've never been so exhausted. This is a cell danger response that's occurring when you hit that exhaustion. So think of it like we all understand why we get a fever to burn out a virus or a bacteria. We get a fever response. It's part of our immune response. A cell danger response from mitochondria is also part of your immune response. So what happens is you blast out all these reactive oxygen species. If it's an acute stress, that's fine. But if you have a chronic infection or chronic exposure to stress or just this chronic attack on your body, and these reactive oxygen species are coming out nonstop, that causes oxidative stress and it's actually damaging. Acute is okay. The other thing that happens and why we get so tired with this acute reaction and turning into a chronic reaction is our body tamps down the ATP production. So remember we talked about ATP being your currency for energy. When you're in this cell danger response, your mitochondria stop producing energy because guess what? The invader, whatever's in your body, it uses your energy to reproduce. It steals energy from you. And so your body naturally, your mitochondria say, hey, we've got a problem here. Immune system, go send out the white blood cells, go send out the fighters, go do your thing. And we're going to turn down energy dial over here. We're going to shut it off because this invader is going to steal our energy and use it to reproduce. And that is one of the reasons that we get so exhausted. If you can also apply that to chronic stress coming in, you are eventually going to just wipe out and they are going to stop functioning. So handling stress is critical. And I'm sure you'd agree, Sinclair, that you worked with people and I've worked with people where we've done all the scientific things, biological things that we can do to support people perfectly. But if the stress piece isn't resolved or handled, then people will get stuck and they will not heal. It is so critical. And I know you have lots of speakers coming on here talking about this, and it's something we cannot ignore. It must be handled. And I find that people don't want to deal with that piece. And I get it. I don't want to deal with that piece either. Give me a food or a pill or can I just do red light therapy? Can I just do some cryotherapy? Can you just biohack me? Anything but the stress, anything but dealing with the stress.
I know, it's so true. And I also think it's really important for, our audience and for our practitioners listening, that we stop giving lip service to this because we're smart enough as a community now that yes, mind, body, spirit, and working on stress. You can't just say these words. Why we teach our practitioners that we mentor, our students that, not only is it about mitochondrial support, it's about nervous system support because otherwise the body can't heal the way it knows.
It cannot. And you're so good at this. I've seen you in action with my own husband and it is perfect. So I hope that people on this summit get a chance to experience this with you.
Oh, thank you, honey. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's so important that we spread the word, right? So talk to us more about the factors of what we have done to disrupt our mitochondrial function. Is there anything else that we have control over that we haven't covered yet? And then we can talk about what we can do to restore mitochondrial function. We're not going to leave you hanging, guys.
Yeah, there's so much that we have control over, right? Every day we are faced with so many choices every day from everything, from our thoughts, from choices of how we're going to think and how we're going to look at the day that we face ahead, from the food that we're going to put in our bodies to what we're going to use when we jump into that shower and clean ourselves off. And what are we going to put on ourselves after? And what kind of makeup are we going to use? And what are we going to do with our hair? And, how much am I going to pour on myself in terms of workload for the day? And there is a choice in every single moment, but there's also some things that we can do to restore. And that's so amazing. It's kind of like death by 1,000 cuts, life by 1,000, supportive things that you can do. Choices. So choices. That's the word I'm looking for. And I always hear you say you lived into it. You're going to live out of it. Right. And so I love that we have so much control over what we can do to support ourselves. And even down to, we talked about food, and I'm sure your audience is smart around food. They know about not eating refined sugar and processed grains and bad fats and casein and gluten and artificial ingredients. And they know about healthy fats versus bad fats. And they know about clean protein. And hopefully they know about, organ meats. And even if you don't want to eat them, you can take them encapsulated. There's all kinds of good things that you can do. But the way that you eat is critical also, the timing that you eat is actually very supportive to your mitochondria. So what I'm talking about is intermittent fasting. It is actually a way to stimulate mitochondria biogenesis and to help you slough off the cells that are no longer working. It's actually called hormesis. Intermittent fasting is a way that we do that. So it's simple. You don't have to fast for days and days. You can have shorter eating windows. If you're new at this, you can start, slow and low and build it, but you can have, you can start with a 12-hour fasting window where you shut the kitchen down at, 6, 7 o'clock at night and get up the next day, maybe eat around 8, 9 in the morning, and then you can slowly extend that. I personally go till about 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And and it took me a while to get there. I used to wake up starving, which means, of course, that I have blood sugar dysregulation and all kinds of infections and problems in my body when you wake up starving like that. But now, after a lot of, work on my body, I can do that. And it's really healthy for your mitochondria. You can also use keto as a tool. I don't recommend doing keto long term, but it's a great way to turn into a ketone fat burner versus a glucose burner for energy. And when you burn ketones, your mitochondria are responsible for burning that energy, for that energy metabolism. And when you burn ketones, you actually burn clean. So cleaner than burning glucose or sugars or carbs for energy. Think of it like a car that you're putting super duper high octane gas in. It works better and it has less emissions. Your body's the same way. When you burn fat instead of carbs for energy, you burn clean and you have less oxidative stress and you can heal faster. So keto can be good for some people for a short period of time. It's also widely used in cancer treatments, which is a whole nother topic, but it's because it's so supportive to mitochondria. And then regular exercise, and you can be kind to yourself. You don't have to be doing HIIT training or going crazy. You can do, workouts that are much more gentle and make sense for you, especially if you're starting from a really sick space. You're not healthy. You don't have energy. If you start out by exercising hard, you're just going to hurt yourself more. Start out gentle and be loving and kind and, try gentle workouts for 30 minutes, things like yoga and Tai Chi. And if it's hard, your story, Sinclair, always touches my heart every time you tell it, how you couldn't even get out of your car at the end of the day to walk into your house. Yeah. You were so sick. That kind of exercise would have been impossible.
I'm glad to pull me out of the car.
I mean, if that's the place that you're in, then and when somebody tells you to exercise, you're like, no way, right?
Yeah.
So start gentle and be kind to yourself.
A few more choice words than that.
Mitochondria love it. Sleep is so wonderful and restorative to your body. So allowing yourself to shut down at night and allow yourself to sleep. And as I say this, I laugh at myself because I am the queen of burning the candle at both ends. It's you.
You are.
Really?
Well, you're a woman on a mission. You have,
take my own advice, but no, I have to get at least my 7. If I don't get my 7, if I sabotage myself and get, 6 or less than 7, it's bad. I can feel it right away. So sleep, it's so amazing. Get out and get in the sun in the morning and at the end of the day. So I'm talking circadian rhythm here. Circadian rhythm is so critical for mitochondria function. Your eyes should be on the sunlight when you first wake up in the morning, helps you burn off melatonin and wake up. And then at the end of the day, your eyes should be on that sunlight as the sun sets and as it dims. And if you work rotating shift work or night work, I'm sorry to say, but there is absolutely no way to biohack. You have to stop doing that. If you cannot get well and you work at night, you have to work during the day and reset your circadian rhythm. It is just almost impossible to fix. There's no hack for that.
I know, it's so true. And I really feel for our night shift and graveyard workers, but the data is it is so hard on your body. So be as kind and gentle yourself as possible and do whatever life plan you need to.
It is. I know it's so hard. And then some other things you can do. Red light therapy is amazing. Infrared therapy or red light therapy is really stimulating to your mitochondria. It doesn't have to be expensive. I mean, you can go out and get in the sun, but if you can get into a red light device, it's really incredible. It's another hormesis activity for your mitochondria that allows them to mitochondrial biogenesis is what I'm trying to say. And it allows your mitochondria to reproduce. Cold exposure, same thing. If you can get into a cold bath or cold shower or cryotherapy or any of those, it's very energizing to your cells and helps heal them. So if you have chronic illness, chronic disease, this could really help you. What you want to do is assist your body to slough off the malfunctioning cells that are no longer working. And cold exposure helps do that. It makes room for new cells to grow. And then, of course, there's a whole host of nutrients that you can use, supplement-wise and nutrient-wise to support mitochondrial health. But in the time we have left, Sinclair, what else do you want to cover?
I just really want to give folks the chance to reflect back on how much material we've covered and to ask yourselves, is there something in this list that we've already mentioned, something that you have control over, whether it's a factor that disrupts mitochondrial function, or if it's something that you can actually do to rehabilitate your mitochondria, because I know that there is. And Laura, for those practitioners out there listening, and for our gluten-free yogis who still feel like crap, is there any advanced nugget that you give them where if they're like, yep, you mentioned 72 things and I've done 71 and a half. What else can I do?
One more nugget. Oh my gosh, we covered a lot. I think my final words would be, do not ignore your gut health. I would say, and I know people on this summit are really in tuned with this, but if you have not yet done a gut restoring protocol with a practitioner, I would say, because what you can see online for all the free stuff that's out there is very different than what you can do guided with someone who can really dig in and support you. And I know that Sinclair and her team are excellent at that. A lot of people on this summit are excellent at that. This is something we do in my clinic. I think that's the piece. I mean, at the most basic level, your gut processes food and food is fuel. And without fuel, your mitochondria will not survive. And if you are blocked from absorbing nutrients from your gut microbiome, or if you have chronic smoldering infections there that you're not aware of, or you have toxins in there that you need assistance getting out, or you have got, parents that my mind's going. I'm like, I probably should have mentioned mycotoxins too. If you've not been tested for mycotoxins, if I could have two things, I would say gut and mycotoxins. Those would be the two big things. And I know you have mycotoxin people talking on this summit, so I'm not even going to go there, but these are the two big things. Huge. That would be my nugget.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love the distinction you made between something you can find online, just like, we're not talking about a cleanse, not a juice cleanse, not a diet, but an actual multi-layered approach to flushing out your gut and to rebuilding it.
There is a order of operations that makes it work better for you. And so work with somebody who knows how to do that, is what I would say. Find your people. You're on this summit listening to all these experts. Find the people that resonate with you and who you think can support you, and just invest in yourself and do it. Stop trying to do it yourself. Stop trying to piecemeal it, because that's what I did for the longest time. Part of my story is I finally hired a practitioner to help me because I couldn't do it myself, right? This was even before I met you, Sinclair. This was years before. And I finally, hired somebody, and they're the ones that opened my eyes to, there was other things I could be doing.
Yeah, so true.
Then I met you and Michael, and I realized, there's a whole nother level that other practitioners don't know about. There's a whole nother level.
It's been an honor and a joy to mentor you, because you're doing such important work in the world. So
it has been amazing. And I appreciate you too so much. And a wonderful journey.
More to come.
Yes.
Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom today. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. You enjoy your day, your night. And
yeah. So where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. You can find me at laurafrontiero.com. And my name is like the Great Frontier with an O on the end. You can find me at laura.frontiero on Instagram and pretty much everywhere on social media.
Thanks for listening. Go to detoxrejuvenation.com to find the links in the show notes to everything we covered in this episode. Please subscribe, review, and share with other humans who need this precious information. Let's help each other. Until next time, love, Sinclair.